According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine and National Institute of Health, up to 50% of people who ascend to heights above 8,000 feet may develop acute mountain sickness, which is a form of altitude sickness. Altitude sickness is a common illness people experience when they travel to Denver or higher altitudes from lower altitudes. The sickness can be serious and can cause terrible symptoms. Some people don't know what altitude sickness is, and it's important that they learn in order to recognize the symptoms and be able to prevent altitude sickness from happening when traveling to higher elevations. Altitude sickness is exactly what it sounds like. You get it when you travel to higher areas when you're at a lower elevation rapidly. There are 3 types of altitude sickness a person could develop, but the only one we're going to focus on today is acute mountain sickness, which is the most common. Because I have lived in Denver my whole life, I have never experienced altitude sickness myself. However, I have had friends travel from sea level, whether it be California, Florida, East Coast, and when they come here, they have actually experienced it, or going up into the mountains, they have experienced it. Today, I will explain the causes, symptoms, treatments, and preventions of altitude sickness. I will begin by sharing the causes using online information and personal information. Then we will go over the symptoms of what altitude sickness is, and what it looks like and how you can recognize it. Finally, I will explain the remedies for altitude sickness and preventative measures on how to prevent it in the future. Now that I have provided a brief outline of what altitude sickness is, let's look at the causes, symptoms, and remedies for altitude sickness. According to Dr. Peter Hackett from UpToDate.com, altitude sickness can be caused by ascending to a new altitude rapidly. In the journal Patient Education, High Altitude Sickness, written by Dr. Peter Hackett, some of the causes of altitude sickness include prior history of altitude sickness, exercise or alcohol usage before traveling to that higher elevation, rapid ascent above 8,000 feet, breathing problems such as asthma, and diabetes. For reference, Denver sits at a mile above sea level, which is about 5,280 feet above sea level. Now, just west of Denver is Boulder, and they sit just a bit higher than Denver. And then just west of Boulder, the mountains start getting over 8,000 feet in elevation, and that's where you run into problems. Now let's figure out what some of the symptoms look like. Symptoms of altitude sickness. Some of the symptoms of altitude sickness include headache, tiredness, lightheadedness, lack of appetite, difficulty staying awake, and nausea. They can be mild or severe, depending on your body. These symptoms can often be severe and debilitating in everyday life. I had a friend that came here from Florida, and they could not leave their bed for 3 days because they were so tired and their head hurt so bad. Now let's figure out how we can prevent or solve some of these horrible symptoms. Some of the treatments and preventions for altitude sickness can be found in the same journal we looked at before. First, Dr. Hackett recommends steroids to help with severe symptoms of altitude sickness. However, if you don't have access to a doctor or your symptoms are not severe, there are some home remedies that you can use. One of the home remedies is Motrin or ibuprofen. You can find it over the counter in their pills, and you can take it to help alleviate headaches. Next, you can drink Gatorade and Powerade, or even Pedialyte to help replenish electrolytes and keep you hydrated, which will also help with the tiredness, lightheadedness, and headaches. However, if these symptoms are severe and they last more than 2 days, you should definitely seek medical attention. There aren't many ways to prevent altitude sickness. The only way to actually prevent altitude sickness is to possibly slow your ascent. So if you're actually climbing a mountain and you're not used to the altitude, you should let yourself acclimate to the altitude before climbing to a higher elevation. So, in conclusion, altitude sickness is an illness that people can get when they come to Denver or any other high altitude place from a lower altitude. I have shared from experience and from a health journal the causes, symptoms, remedies, and preventions for altitude sickness. There are causes such as ascending to a higher elevation above 8,000 feet, and the symptoms look like headache, tiredness, and they can be severe. Remedies include steroids and hydration. Prevention includes slowly ascending. Now, coming to Denver to ski or hike, or just experience the beauty of the mountains, can be beautiful and exciting and fun. However, it can also be really not a fun time if you experience altitude sickness, headache, lightheadedness. So know the facts, so when you're here, if you start to experience these symptoms, you know the remedies that you can use to actually solve this, or what to look out for if you need to go to the doctor. Thanks.